Let's talk the latest Lakers news and rumors. Harrison Graham and Chase Sr. with you on Chat Sports. Montrezl Harrell, could he be available via trade? That's the latest report.
The Lakers are willing to entertain offers on Montrezl Harrell. Now, he's coming off a Sixth Man of the Year campaign, but Montrezl Harrell this year, not the same player he was last year when he won that coveted award. And there are a few reasons for that. So you go back to the bubble. He didn't play well with the Clippers in the bubble, and he did have to deal with some family issues, and he was held out for a while because of that and wasn't the same player. But he signed a 2-year deal worth around $19 million for the Lakers this offseason. So for potential teams looking to trade for Harrell, it's not like they would be absorbing a huge contract, and he's still under contract for next season. And while he hasn't been as good as he was last year with the Clippers, he's still been pretty solid this year. So teams like the Hornets, who need some front court help and a versatile athletic power forward, are maybe checking in on a player like Montrezl Harrell. And his numbers might be down, Harrison. He's still shooting 64% from the floor. The thought with potentially moving on from Harrell or KCP, ramifications down the line financially, where maybe the Lakers are trying to clear some salary cap space to bring a bigger name in.
Yeah, and I'll just say it flat out. Montrezl Harrell misses Lou Williams.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion, and I think it's a fact. I think Lou Williams and him had a great two-man game going. The only question I have here is, okay, sure, you get a decent offer for Montrezl Harrell. What is your front court at that point? Anthony Davis is still out. Marc Gasol, he's whatever. He's fine. He's a warm body. Like, he's a good vet, but he's not, the difference in you making a run or not. Your front court is already thin. Oh, and by the way, now LeBron is out for potentially an extended period of time. If you trade Montrezl Harrell, that's fine, but one of two things better be true. One, you better be convinced that you have Andre Drummond after the trade deadline passes via buyout, or you got to have another plan in place, because if you trade Harrell and Davis is out, you're talking about Marc Gasol and Markieff Morris are basically your only two notable bigs at that point. That's problematic.
From a roster construction standpoint, trading Montrezl Harrell doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's why I point to the salary cap implications, because Montrezl Harrell, he's on the books for around $9 million. KCP on the books for around $13 million. So that right there, simple math shows you $22 million. So maybe the Lakers have a plan, led by Rob Pelinka, that we don't know about, clearing $22 million of cap space by moving on from Montrezl Harrell, possibly KCP as well, which would then free up money for them to bring on a bigger name. That's the only reason that I think this makes sense.
Yeah, and we'll just have to wait and see. If they trade Harrell, I'm just going to assume they have a plan, because your front court's already thin. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Should the Lakers trade Montrezl Harrell? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm going to lean no. I'm going to hope that you get a little bit more out of him and you keep him due to that lack of front court depth. But let us know what you guys think. Kyle Lowry to the Lakers. Should we not count it out? Well, ESPN Adrian Wojnarowski pretty recently said, do not consider the Lakers out of the Lowry sweepstakes chase. This could get interesting.
Talk about those financial implications, right? You move on from Harrell. You move on from KCP.
Dennis Schroeder.
Kyle Lowry is making more than $30 million. If you have plans to re-sign him, maybe you get rid of Dennis Schroeder as well. Now, that completely depletes the Lakers' depth, and this is all pure speculation. But when it comes from a guy like Woj, you have to take stock in that. Yeah. And if Kyle Lowry, with LeBron and AD healthy, that is a big three that I really like come playoff time, because if they can slow it down or have to play fast pace, they can adapt to any style with that trio.
That trio can go up against the Nets. Now, Lowry, out of those 6 players, when you go KD, Harden, and Kyrie Irving, probably talent-wise is the least talented of that bunch, but this guy's won a title. He's a proven winner, especially come playoff time.
Plays defense, too.
He defends better than a guy like Kyrie Irving,
yes,
so you could argue that's a bit of a push there between the two sides. If you're LA and you're thinking, I don't know if we have the firepower to go up against Brooklyn, then you at least have to consider this. The point that you made, though, and that would make me hesitate, is okay. For sure, KCP has to go because he's $13-14 million. Kyle Lowry's $30. I think also Harrell has to go, so okay, that gets you to about $22-23 million. Dennis Schroeder's over $10 million as well, so that helps you match. I don't know if they have a third piece outside of him that could go. Does Kyle Lowry's major impact, which he would have, outweigh those three guys? Because all three of those guys would be heavy rotation minutes guys come playoff time. You're banking on AD being fully healthy, you're banking on LeBron being fully healthy, and you're probably banking on getting a couple of buyout market guys as well.
And the reason why the Lakers would have to resort from moving on from those players is this. Not only do they lack financial cap space, right? They lack draft picks, and they lack player assets as well, especially of the young type that they could trade in order to get a player of Kyle Lowry's caliber back.
And you wonder, as we shift to the next story here, Taylen Horton-Tucker reportedly is not going to be traded. Rob Pelinka wants to keep him. Maybe you have to move him to make that happen for Kyle Lowry. As of now, the latest reports, THT is going to stay in LA. They don't want to move him. Pelinka likes him. He's a restricted free agent, which means they can match any contract he's offered after this season. They're willing to move KCP. They're willing to move Montrezl Harrell. Sounds like Dennis Schroeder could be a guy they're willing to move. But as of now, Taylen Horton-Tucker is staying in the purple and gold.
In the chamber, the Lakers do not have a lot of young player assets. This is really the only young player asset that the Lakers have, Taylen Horton-Tucker. And since AD has been out of the lineup, now without LeBron, his numbers have gone up. In the month of March, he's averaging more than 12 points per game. Kind of plays that point forward role for the Lakers. Now, Rob Pelinka obviously likes him. LeBron James really likes him. So that's the only reason that the Lakers might hold on to him, because when you plan ahead, Taylen Horton-Tucker, Harrison, is going to be a restricted free agent. There is going to be a team out there looking at his versatile skill set that will probably offer him around $10+ million, given everything that he can do on the floor as an offensive and defensive well-rounded player. So the Lakers have to be smart about this, and Rob Pelinka, if he wants to hold on to THT, he has to understand that if we don't trade him and get an asset back this year, we're probably going to have to pay for him. So my message to Rob Pelinka, be smart, because if a team is willing to overpay for THT, you got to give him up, especially if you get a player back that is seriously going to help you contend for a championship this year.
The worst case scenario is not moving him for an asset like a Lowry and then losing him. Exactly right. That's something you have to decide right now if he's a part of your future. So big 24 hours coming up for the Los Angeles Lakers. Should they use Taylen Horton-Tucker in a trade for a guy like Kyle Lowry? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. Your turn to chime in on this one. So go ahead and let us know. Obviously, when it comes to THT, the raw numbers aren't going to blow up anybody, but per 36 numbers are good, and we've seen him flash signs of greatness this year. I get wanting to keep him, but you got to balance the present and the future.
People make jokes about the personnel, say, that LeBron has, but if you look at his track record, he's actually been pretty spot on with assembling teams and identifying talent. Hey, all jokes aside, look at the All-Star team that he assembled this past year. They were loaded, and they took down Team KD. Taylen Horton-Tucker is a guy that LeBron is really high on. So I think LeBron looks at THT, and he says, okay, look, I'm 36 years old. Anthony Davis is injury prone. We don't have a lot of young players who are going to be around for a while, who are experienced.
Yep.
I think we should hold on to THT. But again, for Rob Pelinka, if a team is willing to go overboard for a player, knowing that he's going to be a restricted free agent next year, knowing that a team will probably overpay for him, hey, you have to make the smart fiscal decision.
We'll see what happens with the Lakers, and whatever does happen, we'll cover it on the Lakers Report. You see the link below. It's youtube.com/LakersTV. Head over there for more Lakers videos. If you're watching on our Lakers channel, well, all you got to do is hit that big red button and subscribe. We'll go a little quicker here on Drummond. This is a story that's kind of circulated. Obviously, he's a buyout candidate. I don't envision the Lakers trading for him, Chase, but if the trade deadline comes and goes, it sounds like they're going to be the front runner for Andre Drummond.
Yeah, real quick. Andre Drummond without AD and LeBron could step in and do what he did with Cleveland, averaging 17-plus points per game and 13.5 rebounds. When LeBron and AD come back, that puts AD at his natural position, the one that he prefers at the 4 spot. Andre Drummond isn't going to put up these numbers that he put up with Cleveland, but he will be a viable option at the center spot. And what that kind of does, Harrison, it kind of has a trickle-down effect because you bring in a guy like Andre Drummond, and the Lakers are believed to be the front runners if he is indeed bought out. It helps your depth.
Yep.
It really does help your depth, which is a glaring need for the Lakers, especially at the front court.
Yeah, and I think Drummond makes sense if he does get bought out. Name a player the Lakers should add. That could be a trade. That can be a buyout market. Whatever it is, it could be a free agent. DeMarcus Cousins, still out there. What do you guys think? Name a player the Los Angeles Lakers should add to make a playoff push.